Welcome to another edition of US Club Soccer on Facebook Live. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Tyler Heffernan. I'm the Senior Manager of Communications for US Club Soccer. Joining me today is Jason Sachs, the Vice President of Business Development and Philanthropy with Positive Coaching Alliance. Before I turn it over to Jason, just a quick rundown on what we're doing here. So US Club Soccer is super excited to be leading up to its launch of the Players First licensing application to clubs. And what that means is essentially it's going to be a stamp of approval for clubs that have proven themselves to be doing things the right way in terms of the Players First pillars, which are club development, coaching development, player development, parent engagement and education, and player health and safety. So each week leading up to that day, again, that's October 15th for the licensing launch, we will be featuring one pillar. And this week, we're closing out on the Parent Engagement and Education Week. A few days ago, we had Sky Eddie Bruce with Soccer Parenting. And today, Jason's going to be lending his expertise with Positive Coaching Alliance. Welcome, Jason, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Tyler. Just a quick background for those of you that might not know who or what Positive Coaching Alliance is. We are a national nonprofit organization. We were founded out at Stanford University back in 1998. Our mission is to improve the culture of youth and high school sports so that all kids have a positive character building experience. We're not everybody gets a trophy. We're not anti-competition or winning. We are how do we strive to compete at the highest level and do it in the right way. And we're not just about coach certification. We are really about taking the holistic approach of how do we improve the culture. So that means that everybody that's involved in the youth sports or youth soccer experience has a role to play, whether that be administrators, coaches, the athletes themselves, or what we'll talk today about parents. So one thing that I wanted to share with everybody today is a tool that PCA uses in our live workshops with our parents, and we call it the 100-point exercise. And I'm going to walk you through it right now. I think this is a really good tool for parents and for kids. We'll pull it up on our screen right now. So the 100-point exercise is basically, it's a really good opportunity for parents to sit down and really self-reflect on their own goals for their kids in sports. So if you're a parent, this basically forces you to sit down and look at, okay, what are the goals that I have for my child playing youth sports or youth soccer? And what we ask parents to do is, take 100 points and add them up and basically, divvy them up throughout all these different types of things of what a potential goal for your child in youth sports might be. So it could be becoming a good athlete, learn to play the sport. I want them to win. I want them to gain self-confidence. I want them to learn how to deal with defeat. I want them in sports because that's going to make them physically fit. Sports can learn life lessons, learn teamwork, have fun, make friends. Hey, maybe it's I want them to earn a college scholarship. And then there are some other opportunities as well of where they can fill in the blanks. So what we're trying to do here is have parents really think about where they're going to divide up their points. And, a lot of parents, when they fill this out, they might, just say, all right, I'm going to put, 10 in every category and make sure that, I want to be even across the board. Some might really look at it and say, I don't really care if my child goes on to play soccer or a sport in college, and I'm not really concerned about the winning. But I do really want to make sure that my son or daughter, is learning life lessons, learning about self-confidence, learning how to deal with defeat, because those are things that are going to, stick with them long after their playing days are over. So when we go through this exercise, we ask parents to divide up, 100 points into all these different categories, and then we have a conversation about it. And within the group, you're hearing from other parents on what, what they might be thinking about what their child's doing or what they want their child to get out of that youth sports experience. And then what we ask parents to do is we challenge them and we say, where did you put the most amount of points? And if somebody says, I put the most amount of points at learn life lessons or have fun, then we ask them, when you're on the sideline and you're cheering for your child or your child's team, when are you cheering? Are you only cheering when there's a goal or there's a good play? Shouldn't you be cheering for when they're having fun or there's a good life lesson that they learned because they bounced back from a mistake or whatever it might be? So this really should be a guide for what we're emphasizing and what we're cheering for. So we really challenge the parents to, walk the walk of where they're putting, their efforts and where their goals are for their child. And then there's a second step to this. So once the parent has filled out this 100-point exercise, we ask them to give a blank copy to their child and have their child fill out their 100 points. And it's really interesting for then the parent to line up theirs against their child. And I think some people might be very closely aligned with what their child's goals are. Some parents might realize, wow, I never knew that my son or daughter was really trying to get a college scholarship, or they were just in it because their friends were playing and they're having fun and it keeps them active, and that's what they're really focusing on. So it's an opportunity to have good, empowering conversations with your child as well. Sometimes it's difficult to get things out of our kids to have conversations. So this could be a prompt of saying, oh, you know what, you put 25 points around, physical fitness, and you put, 10 points around winning, talk to me a little bit about that. And they might say, you know what, like, I really love playing soccer, and I could really care less if we're winning right now. I just like the experience. I like trying to get better. It's giving me self-confidence. There's different things that I can do, but winning is just not a big concern. And so I think that's a good conversation for parents to have with kids as well. And I think the other thing we want to make sure that we're doing is, keeping kids on a good path of, no matter what their, skill level is or how they perform that day at practice or at a game, as a parent, our love and our support for them isn't going to change depending on how they play a sport or what their performance is like. So I think those are really important things that we need to be aware of as parents, as we're going through this 100-point exercise. And when we do have the conversation with child, making sure that we can align our goals with their goals as well.
So just a couple of questions, and if you're tuning in on Facebook, feel free to leave your questions below. You can get a copy of that PDF in that thread as well. One question that we have messaged to us is this best for a particular age? Are we talking, and even maybe competitive level?
I think, I think it's a great question, and I think it's good for any age. I think you can even do it multiple times. You could do it when your child first starts playing soccer and they're 5 or 6 years old. Like, they might not really understand what they're doing, but as they start to understand some of these things and they're 7, 8, 9 years old, you can have that conversation with them. And then when they're going into high school, or they're making the decision, do I want to play for a competitive club team, and do I know all the other sacrifices that I might have to make? Let's make sure what my goals are as a player, as an athlete are, and let's make sure that my parents are on the same page as well. So I think it's good for all different ages, and I think it's definitely good to do it multiple times throughout your child's life playing sports.
What about the role of a coach in this, or a director of coaching? Should they be involved in this process? Should they facilitate this? Should they see the results? How do you see them playing into this, if any?
I think it could be from a club level or a coach level. I think it's a great tool to give to parents. We talk about the importance of a good, positive coach-parent relationship, and so the coach is hopefully talking about his or her coach philosophy, setting expectations with parents and kids, throughout the entire season of what's expected of them and what their role is. So I think this is, we recommend that, coaches have a preseason parent meeting to lay out some of those things. And this could be something that the coach hands out at that meeting, or sends in an email and says, here's a great exercise for you to have to have this conversation with your child before the season starts. So I think that, making sure that the best possible experience for the child is happening, the league administrator and the coach play a big role in that. So if they can provide some of these tools and resources, I think that goes a long way.
And what about next steps? So you get a parent and their child to fill this out. What are the next steps then if there are big gaps, or even on the opposite end, what if they're really aligned? Is one particularly bad or good, or how do you kind of see those results?
Yeah, I don't think that one's bad or good. I think it's a great opportunity just to have a further connection between the parent and the child. So if they are aligned, that's great. And then maybe you start setting some goals around, the things that they're really excited about, or, things that maybe they say, I want to be more competitive. I want to have that competitive edge. I want to get more aggressive. And then you can start setting some goals for them, and you can go back to that throughout the season. And if they're really far apart on things, what better time to really sit down and say, okay, like there's obviously some, miscommunication, or we're not on the same page here. So let's talk about, like, what do you want to get out of soccer? And, the great part about this is, you can fill this out, and then you can go back in the backyard with your child and kick the soccer ball and have a conversation about it, because that's when kids are really going to open up. If you just sit them at the table and be like, why did you put 25 points there? You might struggle to get something out of them. But over kicking the ball back and forth in the backyard and saying, so what are your goals for this upcoming season, and what is it that you want to get out of soccer this year? I think that's a really great bonding experience for the parent, and it's setting up success for the season.
Now, you guys have a really impressive portfolio of people associated with you. Steph Curry, and Julie Foudy, and the list goes on and on from really all sports.
Mm-hmm.
If a player is looking at this and says, okay, here's my checklist, is there particular traits of really competitive future successful players if they put in 100 points and win, or 50 and win, or 50 in college scholarship, or how do you sort of see that balance with a player that's like, you know what, I'm impressionable, I want the best score,
Yeah.
and maybe there isn't a best score here. How do you sort of approach that with them?
Yeah, I don't think there is a best score. I think it's going to vary for every person. And I think the most important thing for a child to understand is, if they do want to get that college scholarship, I think that if they're focusing on what they can control and focusing on the process of how they're going to get better each day. And we talk a lot about, a mastery environment. So can you focus on your effort every time you're out there? Can you learn and improve every time you're out there? And when things don't go well, if you do make a mistake, how do you bounce back from that? If you can control what you can control, so if you can, and I think this is where coaches and parents can come on board, instead of setting goals that are all results oriented, how do you change it where it's more effort based? So it's something that the kids feel like they can attain regardless, because you could set a goal like, I want to score, 3 times every game or something like that, but you're not going to get the opportunity. You might have an unbelievable shot and the goalie makes a great save. And so, do you hang your head there? No, you should still appreciate that effort that you put in, and, the process that got you there. So I think if I think this is a great way to even let kids know that even if you want to win, even if you want to get that college scholarship, that's not a bad thing, but can we get on a track to get there? And focusing on the process and the effort is going to go a lot further for you if you're only focused on the winning and losing. If you're only results oriented, then you're going to start to struggle. You're going to get frustrated. So how can we, as coaches and parents and kids, realize that if we focus on effort in the process, that's where we're going to get to positive results.
And I think that's super important. That's a great message, because I think sometimes we can get caught up in the fact from a playing standpoint, there are certain people that can help you get where you want to go. And you don't necessarily think of mom and dad unless maybe they're coaching you.
Yeah.
But this is important, because even if they're not giving you the X's and O's, you're still showing that they can be a part of this process, and they can really help you with that, as long as sort of everybody plays the right roles and everybody is supportive. And
Yeah, and we're big on mental models, and so we have our double goal coach model for coaches, and with parents we have our second goal parent, which basically talks to parents about how can you really play an important role in your child's youth sports and youth soccer experience, and that's focusing on the second goal, which is the life lessons. Coaches and kids worry about the winning, let the parents really focus on those life lessons. How can you be a support system to your child, to the team, to the coach? are you making sure that you're doing everything possible to have a positive relationship with the coach and other parents? And so parents play an extremely important role, in that environment. And I think, parents care so much about their kids and they want them to be successful that sometimes they can be a little more, maybe more overbearing when kids don't need them to be or don't want them to be. One of our most popular videos talks about the car ride home after the game. Kids don't want to talk about the game right after the game and the car ride home. So, there was some studies that have been done with college athletes, and they asked them what did you hate most about your youth sports experience? And they said the car ride home. So when you think about everything that goes through a youth and high school sports athlete, like you got double sessions, you got all these things that are really tough. That car ride home from the game with parents that are saying, you could have done this better on the, or like, well, talk to me about what you were thinking on this play, where kids just got done playing a game. They just want to decompress, wait 24 hours to talk about it. And then as a parent, ask permission. Like you might want to have, like you might know the issue that they're having and want to help them correct them, but ask them if they're ready to receive that. Right after the game, probably not the right time, but maybe 24 hours later say, hey, if you want to talk about some things that I saw in the game yesterday, let me know. And when the kids come back to you and say, yes, I'm ready, that's really when they're ready to receive it. If you just try to push it on them, it's going to go in one ear and out the other.
Right. And Jason, exemplifying how much of a friend he is to US Club Soccer, we literally posted that article on our website yesterday. So he is a rock star, and we appreciate it. And I think with that, we will wrap. Thanks for everyone for joining us on this edition of Facebook Live. We'll be back next week. The next pillar we'll talk about is player development, but PCA, a big friend of US Club Soccer and a huge partner in Players First. Regular content on our website. Feel free to go to usclubsoccer.org/playersfirst to learn more, to read that really good article that Jason was just talking about at the car ride home. Thanks again, Jason.
Thank you.